Hello to everybody. Nice to see you again in this fourth day of our training staff activity. Today, Santa Cecilia is focusing on the leadership aspect, which is crucial in Music Map project, as we intend it as self-leadership. And so how much and how long one can acquire the necessary skills to become a leader, and which kind of attitude is important for a leader to show inside and outside such an environment like the Conservatory of Music or Music University Department. For this reason, we invited Roberto Giuliani to talk about his experience as a leader. But before, let me introduce him. Roberto Giuliani is rector of Santa Cecilia Conservatory of Music in Rome since 2016, actually at his second mandate. He graduated in piano and in art, music and performing art. Before devoted himself to teaching and musicology, Giuliani was active as harpsichordist and pianist. Giuliani started teaching at the Italian State Conservatory in 1987 as professor of music history and of music and mass media, and at Santa Cecilia Conservatory he served 2 terms on the Academy Council. Currently, from 1990 to 2013, Giuliani was adjunct professor of musicology at the University of Lecce, Macerata, Naples, Parma, and Rome, with regard to history of theory and composition, history of contemporary music, musical discography and videography, multimedia, music and new media. Giuliani collaborated with the most important Italian European musical foundation and theaters, Mozarteum University Salzburg, European Center of Ravello, Italian Culture on Net, Accademia Nazionale of Santa Cecilia, Teatro La Scala in Milan, Teatro dell'Opera in Rome, Chelsea Foundation of Rome, Cini Foundation of Venice, BMG Ricordi. Moreover, Giuliani worked for the Rai Broadcasting, Radio 3, Radio Educational, Tech Rai, leading research groups. As a result of a nationwide selection in 2014, he was included in the registry of expert evaluators of ANVUR, the Italian National Agency for the Evaluation of Research and University System. Currently, he is a member of the International Scientific Committee for the project Music in the 20th Century, Italy. He has also been scientific advisor to the Central Institute for Sound and Audiovisual Heritage, member of the National Council for the Performing Arts of the Heritage and Cultural Activities and Tourism Ministry, member of the Board Council of the Italian Society of Musicology and the Italian branch of International Association of Sound Archives. Last year, Giuliani was invited as a speaker at the Cultural Forum in St. Petersburg at the opening plenary section. For BMG, Giuliani published a monograph on Salvatore Sciarrino, and for Guerini Publishing Milan, he wrote the book Music in Films and Television, presented by Ennio Morricone, Franco Piersanti, and Roman Vlad in the academic hall of the Santa Cecilia Conservatory. Roberto, I'm sorry if I cut your curricula vitae a lot.
It's too long.
Please take the floor.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, dear colleagues. Good morning. Buongiorno. I share screen, and Carla say me if all is okay. Okay. Thanks. Since 4 years ago, I am the director of a rapidly evolving conservatory, national, European, and world contest, a conservatory that conceives the Italian musical culture in constant dialogue with other similar European realities, but also in rapid expansion towards East, that looks with attention to our historical heritage. The Italian law defines the conservatories as a primary center of higher education, specialization, and research in the artistic and musical sector, which performs related production activities. End of quotation. Teaching and production to be managed with the awareness of working within a work of art, and in the case of my students, being themselves at the time of the performance, a work of art. The choice to talk about leadership using an Italian conservatory as a point of reference, in this case Santa Cecilia in Rome, is largely due to my direct knowledge of the dynamic of this institution. However, if I were an external scholar coming from another planet, and before making a choice of case studies, I was made aware of the situations of various institutions, conservatoires, universities, and academies. Perhaps even in that case, I would choose as a challenge to deal with the leadership in the conservatories. Santa Cecilia Conservatories, as a study case, is interesting in a situation like the Italian one, in which musical culture has a great history, but a present not so great, above all due to the lack of interest of the political class. A challenge because the starting conditions are very critical and therefore require the choice of and adoption of multiple strategies, as well as requiring a serious as skill. But what are these critical start conditions? General disinterest of the part of political institutions, closure of orchestra, and in general, fewer job opportunities for musicians in Italy, reduced economic endowment, incomplete and aged laws, poor administrative structures, egocentrism widespread in the teaching staff, as you know. Apparently a disparate case study. Alongside this problem, however, it is appropriate to list the strengths in static analysis. High quality of students, high or medium quality of teachers, visibility and international fame, possibility of fundraising, which however collides with the reduced visibility compared, for example, for those who only work in concert production and not in training, as we do. Ability of some teachers to specialize in new sectors, such as that of international project, to stay on the subject, or to project themselves into innovation, including didactic ones. 6, innate Italian propensity to adapt and enhance the little that is available. So the decalogue of skills. 1, personal. I start here so I can quickly forget them and move on to something else. This is because personal skills are partly forgotten, partly merged to form tools for collective results rather than for individual matters. But what to do with personal experience? This experience must be forgotten in the content and reinforced in the modalities. For me, coming from the musicological world, it would have been easy to enhance the musicological activity of the conservatory, even if I had a word reference library. But for example, I decided to leave the management of musicology course to other professor to take the right distance. Now, you will excuse me, a list of my previous activities to understand if and though they can prove useful in the position, the new position of director of the conservatory. So See, Carl, I'm graduated in classical piano. I study harpsichord and composition. I have a university degrees in musicological disciplines. This helps to consider both historical, theoretical, and performance aspects in a conservatory and provides a broader cultural dimension, a dimension that in past generation musician was often lacking. I have two in middle school, high school, conservatory, and university. This experience was very useful to understand the different contexts in which our students who choose to teach will work, and to get to know the university system, a system parallel to our sector, starting from the 1999 reform law, still largely realized in Italy. I have founded association, organized circles of concept and conference, conceived and coordinated national and international scientific projects, and is essentially useful for the management of dynamic between people, for the management of command level, and for the knowledge of production strategies. I was a member of the Board Council of the Italian Society of Musicology, the second in the world for number of members after the American one, and this gets used to managing problems of a different nature. I work for Rai Italian Radio Television, both as speaker and a scientific consultant of Rai Education and Rai Tech, the archive service. And I studied the strategies of the BBC, the Envy of the World, as defined by Humphrey Carpenter for the degree of perfection achieved in production and communication. This was useful to me in relation with the newspaper, radio, and television, and in reflecting on the relationship between music and mass media. Sorry, but I prefer to pronounce it in its original Latin form, media, not media. I was a member of the National Council for the Performing Arts, of the Heritage and Cultural Activities Ministry, and this experience was also very useful because the ministry is the other interlocutor for musicians. The Ministry of University and Research trains musicians in Italy, but is the Heritage and Cultural Activities Ministry that finances the concert activity. The important things, in my view, between the musician and the musicologist are the experience on the double side of studio and the production activities, which are the two steps of the musician careers. A youthful study phase should be followed by a production phase with concert, records, etc. It is also important to have been active in the institution for a long time, so that colleagues feel directly represented and easily related to you. Usually in our institution, applications that come from outside or from above are not welcome. Certainly, having been part of the academic council of my conservatory for 2 terms was well considered, as well as the fact that in all the plenary meetings of the professor, my presence was evident in terms of criticism and proposal, and probably also for this, the esteem of my colleagues towards me was consolidated during these years. During the electoral campaign, it is necessary to demonstrate that you know how to implement the proposed project. Better if you can prove that you have already done them, even in other situation or context. The most difficult thing, however, is to find the right mix. Professor must esteem you, but they must not feel crushed by the director curriculum. And this absence, if they understand that all these skills will be put at the service of the students, at the service of the institution, and also at the service of teachers. On the contrary, the curriculum of each professor must be valued. If the director is important because he's a good director and works well, the professor must feel equally important because they teach well and in many cases have an important performance activities. The balance of the institution is also given by this delicate mix. Many times we hear of a service function of the director, and in fact, the director must often cancel his own activity, putting himself almost totally at the service of student and teacher. Alongside the friendly profile, the directors must also be able to hire responsibility and take decisions, and must be conscious of his function as a role model. For this, he must also be ready to act self-critical. In fact, the director is always under examination because many teachers think they know how to do his job. A colleague told me about a joke related to the French passion for cinema. The joke says, every French thinks he can do two jobs, his own and that of a film director. In Italy, it will become every Italian thinks of being able to do two jobs, his own and that of head of the national football team. In conservatory, the job becomes every professor thinks he can do two jobs, his own and that of director. However, one must always have the passion to listen to criticism and to incorporate, so to speak, the discontent, because if honest, criticism is useful for seeing from afar what one cannot see closely. Is not a question of hypocrisy, but of strategy. Not everyone should like it, but everyone, or almost everyone, should be listened to. The team. Listen to almost everyone and involve the largest possible number of professors. There are two main ways: delegate part of your function and organize teams. The first case, delegating some or many of one's function has two advantages: lightening the director workload, but above all, empowering colleagues. In our conservatory, for example, I want the application of a regulation of didactic structure, department courses, etc. Is a broad system of delegation, and thanks to this regulation, the professors themselves elect their representatives at the head of the department, courses, etc. Many functions are delegated to them, and they guarantee a continuous, almost daily contact with the teacher of each sector, contacts that the director could not have with the same constancy. Furthermore, the distribution of responsibilities brings professor closer to the situation of the director, having to make decisions and solve problems all the time. Several times I have threatened the professor to institute the director's day, a whole day in which one at a time all the professor would have to sit in my place and do the normal and crazy job of a day in my office. More interesting is the second way, the organization of team, each with his own project. So, first of all, identify the project, that is, choose the priorities of the conservatory action. In this case, the project that are part of the electoral program must be compared with the individual request of the professor. This is because my goal must become theirs, and their goals must become mine, if it's of common interest. Sure. A complex operation, because in an institution with many teachers, in Rome there are 200 professors, it's not possible to carry out 200 individual projects. But if interesting, it is possible to identify containers for design affinity. or to establish a time schedule for gradual implementation. Once the project has been identified, it is necessary to choose the people who must be competent, but who must also have the flexibility to work together. And in some cases, colleagues can be helped to discover potential that they themselves did not know. To do this, I have to understand the potential of my professor, help them develop their skills in different fields, broaden their horizons, give them responsibility. To this end, knowledge of the curricula and the public activity of professor is important. But much is discovered through collaboration. The more willing people put themselves to the test, the more chance there will be to have collaborators who recognize themselves in the project of the new conservatory. The director must be a supervisor, but often work on the project with the team, identify the strengths and the weakness of each participant, enhance the interest and different personalities of each, solicit collaboration, but still leave a margin of autonomy. Everyone must have a margin of autonomy, small or large, but must know that everyone's results will be periodically evaluated. Relational skill. I think that one of the most powerful tools for consolidating relationship through ever-growing trust is the adoption of mechanisms of absolute transparencies in the management of power. A policy of open information, quick, clear, comprehensive. For this reason, all the minutes of the official organs of the conservatory are published on the conservatory website in a section called Transparent Administration, Academic Council, Administration Board, Evaluation Unit, etc. Furthermore, the teacher periodically receives, via mail, my newsletter on the most important issues. Even in the period when I was not yet director, much of my electoral campaign was entrusted to a series of periodic mails to all professors, emails called notativa, active note, with reference to music, in which I spoke to colleagues about the problems of the conservatory and the possible solutions in a very open and free exchange. With a large number of very different professors, it's not easy to maintain a dialogue with everyone when radically different tensions and points of view emerge. The situation becomes even more difficult when the conflicts do not concern the artistic side, but the organizational one, or worse, the economic one. Conflict management unfortunately takes a lot of time, but because some leads to lawsuits, especially due to administrative problems not dependent on the director, and because some are evident of temperamental problems. For the latter, after various attempts, all that remains is to apply a Zen technique. And I hope that even these few professors want to be involved in some project that must, therefore, always remain open to new contribution, but in which a point of balance must be continuously sought. Where to make a professor feel, but also student unjustly excluded from an initiative of the conservatory. Another delicate element is relation with the trade union representatives. But here too, the watchword must be transparency and sharing. In fact, claims can have a space only if the governed subject is not aware of the specific economic situation. And this is the first case. If the budget is known and the distribution rules are clear, the problem vanishes. Almost always, not always. Another issue concerns the working condition. The staff of collaborators and secretarial and administrative staff in Rome is absolutely undersized for the new activity of the conservatory. But the number of employees is fixed by law, and therefore the only solution for the moment is to ensure that everyone is aware that the surplus of workload is distributed evenly among all employees, including myself, the director. Obviously, ça va sans dire, we must also know the contractual regulation, the general one and that of the music sector. Open, quick, clear, comprehensive information, as I said before. And for example, I can mention the 2019 program, my program, for the renewal of my position as director. In Italy, you can do a maximum of 2 mandates, a limit which represents a big problem due to the fact that in Italy 6 years are few, given the slowness of the bureaucratic system to carry out important projects, especially if when you are about to reap the fruits of 3 years' work and COVID breaks out. And already 1 year has practically been lost. Perhaps 2 years with the new notice. The guidelines indicated in my programs in 2019 were 3: teaching, artistic production and research, internationalization. As you can see, some of the points discussed in this communication on leadership. Few points clear on which it is always necessary to continue to inform, subjecting the work that is done by me and my collaborators to periodic and public checks. In the skill relationals, I also include external contacts according to my idea of occupying the territory and activating as many contacts as possible with other institutions, public and private, in particular from the world of art. Development of international contacts in the sphere of culture and arts is one of my obsessions. And the experience of Rome is particularly significant under this point of view, because the Conservatory is working to establish a conference of institutions of higher education in Rome. In fact, in my city, beside the Conservatory, there are the Academy of Fine Arts, the National Dance Academy, the National Academy of Dramatic Art, the European Institute of Design, the Academy of Costume and Fashion, in addition to the Experimental Center of Cinematography, Cinecittà. All these institutions already welcome students from many parts of the world. The projectual and productive unions of these institutions can lead to the creation of a unique subject in the world in terms of competence, professionalism, and attractiveness. This aspect was also foreseen in the Reform Law of 1999, with a part expressly dedicated to the establishment of polytechnic arts. But even in this case, 30 years later, the ministry has done nothing. For the moment, however, with all these institutions in the higher artistic and musical education sector, the Conservatory has implemented the projects with 2 partners at a time. With the Academy of Dramatic Arts, we have the contamination project created between students from the Conservatory and the Academy. With National Dance Academy, we have achieved the master in techniques of choreographic and musical improvisation, which also makes use of collaboration with the museums of the art of the 21st century and the Italian Society of Authors and Publishers. With Academy of Fine Arts, there is the project for the production of documentary soundtracks. Thanks to the performance of the students, this project have often occupied the city, but the occupation has been carried out above all with the concert production, which I will talk about later. 4. Scale planning, didactic research and innovation. Design change, linking the 3 missions that laws attributes to the conservatory, teaching and research for the purpose of innovative production. Teaching should be the simplest part because the teaching has always been the field of action of the conservatives, but the reform law had posed 2 major problems, partly still open. The university reform has deprived the system of the initial part of studies entrusted to the middle and musical high schools, and the system had been projected into the logic of a university course, 3 years academic period followed by 2-year academic year. And furthermore, the study programs has to be rationalized and modified according to new cultural and occupational situation. For the first aspect is what's necessary to reconstitute a part of the pre-university course through the development of so-called preparatory course. While for the second aspect, it was necessary long work for the global rewriting of the 5 years of study. A long job also because it was necessary to keep in mind the great teaching tradition of Italian conservatoire, the new and different perspective, and last but not least, the friction between teacher of historical theoretical subjects and instrumental subjects, between soloists and ensemble music, etc. A slow work of convincing and filing the rules, which has now produced a totally new setup. The mission of transmitting historical didactics, piano, opera singings, etc., however, must be accompanied by the vision of new employment opportunities. It is not enough to redesign the existing didactic path. It is necessary to build new training paths, also attentive to new profession. For example, our courses of tuning and restoration of keyboard and the laboratory of violin making. For example, a new ergonomic violin was presented at the Shanghai Violin Making Fair in 1919. These courses have a technological component that also allow for scientific research work, which in some cases is carried out in collaboration with the physics and electronics departments of the University of Rome. New study courses and new master are one of the best meetings areas of the institution of higher artistic musical education, besides, obviously, to musical theater production. In addition to the new structure of the Master in Contemporary Music Interpretation, the following has been activities in the last 4 years. Master in Techniques of Choreographic and Musical Improvisation, already mentioned, in collaboration with the National Dance Academy. Master in Singing, Opera Singing, realized in collaboration with the Central Conservatory of Music in Beijing, China. Master in Film Score in collaboration with the most important film composer resident in Rome. Master in Music for Video Games, directly linked to the productive realities with wide employment and economic perspective. Still in the design phase are Master in Music and Liturgy with the Pontifical Institute of Sacred Music and the Pontifical Liturgical Institution of the Foreign State of Vatican. Master in Performing and Community Space project with the Department of Architecture of Rome 3 University and the Palazzo delle Esposizioni in Rome. One of the objectives of this master is to integrate the different knowledge to deal with the themes of creation and artistic performance, also for the production of new community space and for the articulation of new form of living. Most of these activities have to do with artistic research, and so was born the Master in Artistic Research in Music, realized thanks to Carla Conti's work and passion, and thanks to collaboration with the Orpheus Institute of Ghent, with which we work for the training of our students. This has been possible also because for 2 academic years, thanks to a specific protocol, relations have been activated with the researchers and teachers of the Orpheus Institute of Ghent. Thus, the artistic research seminars for students who passed the specific selection were carried out monthly. Also, with distance learning teaching method in the second semester of this year due to the COVID emergency. Internationalization, sorry, there is a mistake in the screen, sorry. International relations were the third point on my electoral program, also because in previous years the Santa Cecilia Conservatory seems to have disappeared from the international radar. The team dealing with the European international relation was the most active in this period. I thank Carla Conti and Michelangelo Galeati for the great work done so far and for what they will have to do. I go fast because this session is the one you already know partly. But in the last 4 years, Santa Cecilia Conservatory has been the leader of the following European project. Creation, mobility for students with partner countries, with Russian Federation, the project is strategic partnership and using map. For 3 consecutive years, the conservatory won the prize of Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation for the project A Dramatic Voice, Italian Film Sound in Naples in the World, and Creative Europe Cooperation, the project Opera Out of Opera that you know. As you know, this project has involved dozens of teachers and dozens of students. The latter also engaged in traineeships abroad, inaugurating this type of mobility never before adopted in our conservatory. To this project added the collaboration between students for different institutions, such as the project Bella Musica, between Conservatory of Rome, University at Notre Dame, Salzburg, and Würzburg for the tour Mozart plays. The start of exchange with the St. Petersburg Conservatory Orchestra, the project between, the project Beethoven 2020, now maybe 2021 or 22 or 23, but will take our students around Europe with the 5 piano concerts in transcriptions for piano string quartet. Over 100 interinstitutional agreement. The Europa in Musica Festival in collaboration with EUNIC, European Union National Institute for Culture Cluster, which foster relationship with cultural institute and embassies in Rome, located in the Palazzo and Villas, most beautiful in the city, where our students from Italy and from the countries involved now play. And the other project I catch in my list. The Ministry of the University has also entrusted the Conservatory with the coordination of the international musical activities carried out in the city of Rome, in particular in the bilateral musical initiative between Italy and the Vatican. It is useless to talk at this moment about the many projects with China, Japan, South Korea, the countries where most of our foreign students come from. To resume this project, I fear that we will have to wait a long time, which we will pass online altogether. The sixth scale, the economics. Strange as it may seem to a musician, experience in the economic fields is essential for a director of a large institution. If this were not the case, it would be easy prey for the administrative staff and would never know what economic resources are available. Under these conditions, the director would not even know how much it costs to start a new course, or organize a concert, or plan construction works, or plan the purchase of instruments for the different departments. Instead, we must learn quickly to read a balance sheet to understand how it is composed. Let me give a personal example again. There was a period in the Conservatory Rome during which some administrators had decided not to collaborate and no longer even paid their electricity bills, scholarship for student abroad, etc. Only thanks to the knowledge of the laws I managed, in agreement with the board of directors, to assume the so-called substitute power, which allowed me to directly authorize the bank to make payments once the stability of the annual financial statements was verified. Fortunately, this period is over, and I have returned to dealing with the matter of greater satisfaction. But knowledge of the operating mechanism is also important for attracting funding from public and private entities. For the large number of its activities, the Conservatory receives funding. The Conservatory now receives funding, for example, from the European Community, the Ministry of University and Research, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Lazio region, the Municipality of Rome. But funding has also been achieved through the Theatrical Association of Small Municipalities of Lazio region, association that deal with the different areas of Rome, as well as a private sponsor that finance scholarship, etc. This continuous activity of project and request sometimes also lead to far-reaching results. In this day, a grant of 60 million euros has been awarded for the arrangement of the historic building of the Conservatory headquarters, a monastery from the 17th century, with considerable problem of construction work to be solved. Finally, seventh skill. The choice made by politics have a direct impact on our sector in many cases. I talk about the reform of the musical studies, which has long been discussed by the Italian Parliament. I talk about the funding for musical activities that come from the Ministry of Cultural Heritage. I know had the new interest in artistic research shown by the new Ministry of University and Research. But also the choices of the Ministry of Education have a direct impact in the lives of our students who choose to continue their studies to become teachers. All these choices are normally contained in laws, which in Italy usually have long gestation times, laws in which the interests of institutions, lobbyists, and individuals are intertwined. It is therefore important to interact with the system when writing law. To be honest, you really need to know how a law is written, how the changes proposed in the Parliamentary Commission, how much it costs in terms of financial commitment to change a sentence in a law, what are the margins within which one must stay to have the hope of acceptance of an amendment. We all know how to think of the best possible system, but the difficult thing is to translate it into a proposal that can be accepted by Italian Parliament or European Parliament. Obviously, then each nation then reckon with the greater or lesser attention that politicians give to culture and within it music. As part of my commitment to the dissemination of musical culture, I have been heard several times as an expert on the representative on both of a university and conservatoires by the Culture Commission of the Chamber and the Senate of the Parliament of the Italian Republic in relation to legislative project relating to reform of musical study on the discipline of cultural heritage, on the reform on musical activities. In my own small way, together with other colleagues, I was thus able to exercise a legitimate pressing on politics, interacting with the parliamentary activity, with the amendments discussed, with law project in process, etc. This is why it was very useful for me to be part of numerous ministerial commissions, even if often the work was a lot, and as they say, the mountain gave birth to the little mouse, or sometimes it didn't give birth at all. But you know, you have to keep trying and trying again. In this ministerial commission, I have aged quickly. Perhaps I have achieved few results, but certainly I have accumulated a lot of experience, which I can now use for the benefit of the conservatory. On the contrary, I think that everything would work better in Italy if a last part of the experience I have listed up to know were required of all the directors. Unfortunately, the regulation that established the requisites that a director must possess before applying for a candidacy is firm by the 1999 law, 30 years. And if has not been written in 30 years, I doubt it will ever be written. So, the 8th scale. Let's go back to competences, now dealing with internal and external communication. Internal, as mentioned with regard to the newsletter and the management transparencies, the work of informing and communicating the successes of the conservatory must be continuous. Success in the concert field, in the European field, in the field of collaboration with other institutions, etc. It is important to show colleagues not only the final results, but also the progress of the project. In a certain way, it's a question of periodically checking one's electoral programs to see what has been kept in terms of promises made, but also what other parts have been taken, because reality is constantly changing, and even the most visionary and optimistic electoral programs are doomed to age quickly. Then, outside communication. In a big city like Rome, where the protagonists are the government, national organization, the Pope, etc., it is not easy for a music conservatory to carve out a space on the national media. Sometimes, as a result of the constant pressing work, this can happen, but it's easier for the news to travel in more local network dimension, which then means affecting your catchment area. As you know, however, the gap is now large between traditional channel, TV, radio, newspapers, and new social media, web, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. But I believe it is important to deal with all information opportunities, the old ones and the new ones, which is why we are working on the restyling of the conservatory website, which is affected by an old setting, static and non-dynamic, with now the Instagram profile dedicated mostly to student successes travels fast. No, 9 of them. A few minutes, I see. Production and job opportunities. Create professional and paid job opportunities for students, especially for the graduates. Conservatory now offers a series of high-quality concert season entrusted to the best students and graduates, which take place in the different places of the city, squares, monuments, historic buildings, theaters, museums, etc., and who have been awarded the European Year of Cultural Heritage Mark. International competition, such as the Beniamino Gigli competition or the Mascagni New General Festival, are a good showcase through which students have the opportunity to present themselves to audiences composed of artistic directors, international agencies, etc. And in the European exchange sector, we have an important student concert season already mentioned, European music. Also important were the performance in the most important theaters, and also the wide network of relationship that the conservatory has for the organization of concert at Rome Museum. From Rome, the music extends into the wider territory of the Lazio region through the creation of 3 youth orchestra in a small town of Albano, Fiuggi, and Lieti. And from Lazio region, students travel to play in important Italian concert season. In the events organized by the conservatory, students and graduates are paid through scholarship and collaboration contracts. In events organized by other bodies, salaries rise towards professional ones. In projects exchange, I used to say that the only word I don't want to hear is the word free. The interlocutor often thinks that if an object has no cost, it has no value either. We have a long series of secular concerts that you can see on the website, because I see the time run too fast for me. So a series of Git Fest, Sax Fest, concert along the city. Another novelty of the conservatory in this field is the consolidation and promotion of instrumental ensemble, able to offer from small chamber music ensembles to the large orchestra. Some of these, such as wind ensembles or marching band of the jazz department, were particularly useful in this period in which it was necessary, due to COVID, to provide concerts, especially outdoors, as in the case of the Back to Nature Festival, with contemporary art installation in Villa Borghese in the center of Rome. The promotion of our students also passes through the organization of musical flash mobs in the most touristic place of the city, such as the performance of arias from Tosca in front of Castel Sant'Angelo, the original location of Puccini opera, agreements with the Rai National Radio for the broadcasting of the best performance, up to the publication of own production, such as the double CD of music by Vincenzo Bellini, with the performance in world first recording or the autograph of the first version of the opera Adelson and Salvini, recorded in our academic hall, which has one of the best acoustic in the world. And now the last, social impact. Training good singers and instrumentalists is normal for a conservatory, and organizing concert is also the normal continuation. But we have to do more, be present outside the musical context, to have even more visibility, to be taken into account, and to be useful to the world. And this is not enough to relate to other fields of artistic knowledge, such as dance, theater, figurative art. So one of the major strengths of the Conservatory of Rome now, under my direction, is the depth of the third missions, which goes far beyond aesthetic enjoyment and promotes social presences. Some examples: seasons of concert for hospital, medical project with major scientific research center, the institution of Disability Commission, the International Congress on Music and Neurosciences, collaboration with the Hexagram Orchestra, where able-bodied instrumentalists collaborate with instrumentalists with physical and physic pathologists, the announcement of book collection Braille, and the collaboration with the Italian Union of the Blind, who followed the course of keyboard tuning, fundraising for medical and humanitarian activities, concerts in collaboration with Amnesty International and with the United Nations for World Food Day, collaboration with the Resonance Foundation to bring music to place of hardship, the scientific cooperation protocol with the Campus Biomedico University of Rome for experiments in music therapy, the music laboratory for the Peter Pan House, where are cared for children in cancer treatment. Two new projects are now assuming even more important proportion. The Euterpe production on the use of sound and multisensory stimulation in pediatric rehabilitation, the project in collaboration with the Bambino Gesù Hospital Rome, with the creation of a space at the hospital dedicated to this experimentation. However, it is my belief that this collaborative initiative between music and medicine should not be conducted in an excessively creative and spontaneous way. I believe that instead, they must be treated as scientific experiments, and that they must have the characteristics of scientific experience. They must be communicable, verifiable, shared, exportable. Thus, any successful experience should enter the medical literature. This is the case of the essays in which I collaborate, entitled Home-Based Music Therapy for Children with Developmental Disorders During COVID Pandemic, carried out in a team with the doctors of the Department of Neurorehabilitation of the hospital, and now published in the Journal of Telemedicine and Telecare. The other very important project, in my opinion, is Ricercaramente, a project funded by the Lazio region for 6 young autism high-functioning musicians who are being formed with a dedicated contest destined to become a pilot project in the sector. A documentary on the project will be made by the non-profit organization of Photographers Without Borders, which will be presented at the Berlin International Film Festival in 2021, I hope. It is not just a question of attention to disability, but in general of attention to differences. Everything revolves around my strong conviction that music is one of the best tools, if not the best, for collaboration in difference. And I don't mean the term differences only in relation to disabilities, but also to the world of so-called normality. In our conservatory, students study from 35 countries. therefore from different contexts, not only musical, but also economic, cultural, and religious. In the conservatory, students learn to know each other and work together. Music is not a universal language. Fortunately, there are several as for the richness of languages. But you often learn to talk and to be together. A choir, an orchestra, a quartet are perfect examples of inclusive societies in which the contagion travels fast and in which we learn to take care about one around us. In music, one person not only hears the sound, but also the silence of the other, something that never happens normally. Singing or playing, you listen to the poses of those close to you. You are attentive to his time, to what sounds soft or strong, how he or she behaves, how he or she talks or phrases, how responds, how thinks, how breathes. You are sensitive to the other, and this adds value to your value. I believe not only Santa Cecilia has this urgency, but the whole world. Thank you for attention.
Roberto, thank you so much. Please keep off for a while your microphone. And I know your effort to really to cut your, your speech and your relation, because this is an example of how much really a leader has to face every day and in all, one activity. And if you agree, it would be nice to have our questions and answers in the end of the second speech. Otherwise, I don't want to let the floor to Dr. Danilo Simoni too late. So if you are agree, we can let in a quarter to 1 or 20 to 1 Roma time the questions and answers session. So if now Roberto take off his screen sharing. Thank you. And perfect. And so now I go and and introduce the second relations. And because after this case study, as we can consider Roberto Giuliani presentation, we met the full potential of the evolutionary leadership at work. And so which kind of intelligence is predominant, we can say, in the diverse personal and professional development. This session, as I already said, is held by Danilo Simoni, whom I'm introducing to you now, very shortly. Danilo Simoni is the founder of Bloom 2M consulting company and the creator of the Bloom methodology, a systematic approach for life and business evolution based on neuroscience, psychology, energy work, and rooted in deep knowledge of the corporate world. For more than 15 years, he works with psychology and personal development, conjugating a solid academic background in psychology and psychoanalysis with the most innovative technique in the development of human potential, of meditation and performance coaching. Danilo Simoni worked as consultant for management training and organizational development for some of the most important Italian and international companies, such as Unilever, Nestlé, Cisco, Sony, Jaguar, Deutsche Bank, BNP Paribas, Alitalia, Telecom Italia, and many other, of which he carried out projects in the area of leadership, emotional intelligence, and well-being. He is a personal advisor of many chief executive officers and top managers who appreciate his way of working that focuses on all businesses activities driven by the movement of the human soul. Simoni is a director of prestigious training programs, executive and global content expert on the subject of mindfulness for international organizations such as World, TMI, and Tech International. And he is in the team of certified trainers for Epstein Technologies corporate programs, the innovative evolutionary approach on personal energy created by Donny Epstein. He conducts seminars, workshops, and conferences around the world on the theme of evolutionary leadership. Please, Danilo, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carla, and good morning to everybody. I will share my screen so you can take a look at the presentation I have ready for you today. Just a second, please just give me feedback if you can see the presentation. Okay, I think it's here. So what I would like to do with you today is just really reflect upon leadership, and especially on the subject of evolutionary leadership. So first of all, one consideration. Leadership is not really about us. It's not about our role. Is not even about our profile. Really, leadership is really about generation of value and abundance for the community of people we are working for. In order to have leadership, there must be some kind of followership. So the first question we should ask ourselves is, why someone should follow us? What do we have for them? What's in for the community of people, for the organization, for the institution we're working for? And how do we generate the value and abundance for our organization? So, of course, our technical skills are very important, and we have learned from the beautiful presentation from Roberto Giuliani how wide is the range of different skills that we need to have in order to lead a big institution, but technical skill is not enough. The person of the leader is becoming more and more important in order to create leadership. And an organization can evolve only when leaders evolve as human beings. So from a certain point of view, there's a big shift. We are really in a time where things are changing. The way organizations and institutions are seen is changing dramatically, because we come from a period where the organization will see in a way like a machine where everyone was just a piece, a mechanism of the machine, and in some way we just need to find our way to really let the machine work. Now this metaphor, this way to see organization is no longer acceptable, because the culture is changing, and now we see organization as living complex system, as ecosystem, where everyone can give their contribution, where everyone is a leader, and everyone is asking to really express themselves in a way that is natural and it is according to their true nature. So we need to continuously evolve in order to match the complexity of the reality inside the organization, within the organization, and outside the organization. So in order to give answers to this complexity, this rising of complexity, we need to embrace evolutionary leadership. That is not just about our technical skills, that are very important. So management, finance, law, our specific skills are tremendously important, but not enough. In a way, we really need to place our attention to our setting and our intelligences. Why I mention intelligences? Because the work that we are able to do is the result of many different levels of intelligence. You may be familiar with the concept of multiple intelligence. You may be familiar with the concept of emotional intelligence introduced by Daniel Goleman in the corporate and organizational world. But it's not just that. We have at least 4 families of different intelligences that are fundamentals in order to increase our level of leadership. It's the intelligence of our physical system, intelligence of the body, that we call bioenergetic intelligence, that give us the vitality and the personal energy to make things happen. Is the intelligence that we need for the execution in our leadership role. And then we have the emotional intelligences as a result of our heart set. And emotional intelligence, it's tremendously important when we work as leader in order to create an engaging place, because through our emotional intelligence as leaders, we create positive relationship, we communicate in a way that everyone is involved, and we create engagement within the organization. And then we have, of course, mental intelligence, that is what we need to create strategies, to organize, to do the management. And then one thing that's very often forgotten, we have our soul set, and we have spiritual and intuitive intelligences. That is what we need in order to really connect with the vision for our work, the vision, personal vision and vision of the organization, the institution we are ruling. So in evolutionary leadership, we don't only dedicate time and energy to our technical skills, but we spend our time working on our intelligence. Why we do that? Because every single action, because our performance, our execution, our daily work, it's always the expression of the energy and the setting we are able to channel into our intelligence. Because we can use our skill only if our basic intelligences are free to express themselves. Let me give you an example. In leadership, dealing with others is one of the key factors. Dealing with others requires specific skills, such as managing one-to-one feedback, public speaking, or using empathy to connect with others. Well, empathy, communication, relating to others, those are just expression of our emotional intelligence. So we may even have great knowledge on how to be empathetic, but at the end of the day, if you are not working on our emotional intelligence, if you are not really understanding what is What are the factors that nurture our emotional intelligence? So what are the factors that drain the energy from our emotional intelligence, our ability to be empathetic and really take care of others? It won't work at all. So what is the result of this consideration is that the intelligence activation enables the process of learning new skill and using skills that we already have. Because in our experience in Bloom, what we have learned and discovered 20 years of work with executive managers and leaders, and is that we very often know what to do, but we just forget. So we know what we should do in order to run the organization in a certain way, but we often forget what we should do. And we forget it because there is not enough energy in the systems that regulates our intelligence. There is not enough energy in our physical system, in the body, not enough energy in our emotional system, the heart set, not enough energy in the mental system, not enough energy to feed our spiritual system. So as a leader, we have to find a way to enrich our energy state and be sure that we are nurturing our different systems. Those 4 systems are the main dimension of our expression as human beings and as leaders. So the question is, how can we have a certain level of energy that is enough to feed our intelligences? Because the level of the energy available in us as leaders, as individuals, and the level of energy that is available in the team and organization will allow different expression of the work of our team, of the work of our organization. So the higher the level of energy that we are able to convey and to bring into the organization, the higher the level of the quality of the work that our team, the organization can do. And this factor is often neglected, is often forgotten. We give it for granted. But what happens when the level of energy lowers down is that we are easily shifting into what we call survival mode. I want to show you something about that. What is survival mode? Survival mode is when our system is trying to protect itself from some kind of pressure, some kind of danger from the outside. So anytime we feel under pressure, there are neurophysiological responses that put our system, our mental system, emotional system, physical system into this protective defensive mode. When we go into survival mode, we are not using our best potential anymore. When we go into survival mode, we cannot use the best of our skills, and we tend to use our automatic behaviors. So we tend to use the strategies we learned in the past. So strategy from the past applied to the present, and sometimes it just doesn't work. So in order to escape the trap of the survival mode and the trap of the automatic behaviors, as leaders, we really need to be aware of our level of energy. And when I'm talking about energy, I'm not thinking of any esoterical stuff. I'm really thinking of the capacity that the different systems of our physiology and neurophysiology, the level of quality of the work those systems are able to produce. So if we are referring, for example, to our emotional system, The level of energy will determine our ability to recognize our own emotions and the emotion of the others in order to relate in a very appropriate way and to recognize the needs of our colleagues, of our team members, of our peers. When I refer to energy in our mental system, I'm referring to the ability of our mental system to solve very complex problems and to make appropriate decisions in a very specific time. And when I refer to the level of energy and the soul set, I'm referring to our ability to be every time, every single moment connected to our vision, to our true goals, through our values. If the level of energy goes down, then we just lose this ability to perform at the best potential. And as musician and as expert of music, you should be very aware of it, because you know very well that performance is based on 3 pillars. Of course, our talents, so our personal attitude, our personal ability is the first pillar. The second pillar is our skills. How much do we know what to do, and the performance? But then there's a third pillar, there is energy state. You can be very good music player. You can be very well prepared for the piece you have to perform. But when you go on stage, your state is not supporting you, your performance will not be good. And as leader, just like we are performing every single moment, because we have to generate value and abundance every single moment. And what the research is telling us is that the perception of leadership in the people working in organization and institution is strongly related to the level of energy of the leader. So sometimes leaders are very well prepared, they have very strong technical skills, but in some ways they're not able to really generate this charisma. They're not able to create this energy field that people feel comfortable to jump in and feel comfortable to rely on and to trust. Why it is so important to bring energy to our different system, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual system? Because those systems, they allow the realization of the basic leadership dimension. So as leader, the most important thing that we can do is to define a vision, define a compelling vision. Everyone can be included, can be involved, and be consistent with the values of our vision. That where our soul set can help us. When we have a clear vision, then we can define a strategy. Without a vision, no strategy will work well. There is no good wind for the sailor who doesn't know where to go. But in order to define a clear strategy, we need to have our mindset working in an appropriate way. When we have our vision, when we have our strategy, then we can work on having people on board. So we can work on engagement. That's where we need our emotional intelligence, is where we need our heart set. And then we know the why, the vision, we know the what and the how with the strategy. We have the with, the people, then we can go to execution and we can just realize what we have envisioned. So when we work, let's have a deeper look of the different systems and their impact on evolutionary leadership. So we mentioned the soul set and the importance of the soul set and defining the vision. That this is true at the personal level. The soul set and the intelligences related to soul set can allow the expression of our personal vision, can help us really understanding and having clarity of our goals. Those are the intelligence that really give us deep understanding that enhance our intuition. And of course, this lead on the leadership dimension to a clarity of mission, clarity of purpose, clarity of meaning of what we're doing. And when our soul set has enough energy, it's just easier for us to inspire others, because people will feel inspired by a compelling vision. Of course, technical skills is something that we can admire, but inspiration, it's at another level, and inspiration needs some kind of spiritual flavor. That is what comes from the soul set. Once all that is clear, then we can work at a mental level. Mental level will support us as a leader in self-organization, in being smart and brilliant, will support us with our own belief and our identity. In some ways, our mental system will support our ego to express itself in a way that it's a contribution for others, and not in a way that is selfish and based on narcissistic needs. And in the leadership dimension, our mental system will support our strategy, will support our ability to innovate, to create new stuff, will support our lateral thinking, our ability to solve problems, will support our planning, our time management, will support all the management of the organization. And then our heart set, our emotional level, so that the personal dimension would result in emotional balance, quality of our relationship, ability to perceive and feel love, and self-acceptance will help us in our artistic attitude. It is very important as leaders, because through our emotional system, we can work on the engagement within the organization, on the motivation of people, and the way we take care of our people, the way we deal with conflicts, the way we're able to listen to their needs, the way we can use our empathy to create an engaging workplace. And then finally, we need the energy in the body and the body set in order to maintain us healthy, to have vitality, to be grounded, stable, safe, and transmit all this quality in our execution, in our ability to cope with stress, our resilience, our orientation to results, and our ability to achieve. So basically, what I'm suggesting, and I'm really finishing now, because I understand that you want to have time for Q&A for the two discussion. Working on ourselves as human beings will help us being better leaders. Obviously, all the technical and the managerial dimension is still very important, and you cannot get rid of it. But in a certain way, what I'm saying is not enough anymore. Because in order to create the value and abundance that is from where we started, a leader need to have to invest time in creating a strong, steady, solid self-leadership. And the only way to do that is to bring awareness and energy on the way we function at different levels. The way we function in our body, so how our body can increase its level of energy and drain energy. the way our emotional system functions. So when we are able to express our best emotional quality and when we are not, and how our mental intelligence is affected by the different situation we have to cope with. If we consider this time that is a very unstable, complex, ambiguous time, we will find ourselves that probably with a lower level and energy if compared with the normal. And many of us may find themselves in what we call survival mode. So it's just like we are more keen on defending and protecting, try to understand what's going to happen next, because we're very worried about the overall situation in the country, in Europe, all over the world. Well, this is normal, but as leaders, we want to find the way to go beyond our survival mode. We want to go beyond the pressure of different situations that we will face. And we want to find a way to be evolutionary in every single moment of our life. But in order to do that, we have to come back to ourselves. So the temptation is to go outside and to learn more things about the technical skills that we need. My experience working with leaders tell me that the best investment you can do is to come back to yourself and to get to know yourself better at the different level. And you will discover that every single level, every single level will have an impact on the others. So, for example, the body will give you the energy and will feed energy all the other different systems. So sometimes the body is strongly neglected, but as leader, we have to take into consideration that if we lose personal energy and vitality, we are not feeding anymore our ability to feel, to think, and to be connected to our vision. Because there is this energy flow that comes from the bottom and goes up, and you want to be sure that you are nurturing and feeding all your level. At the same time, you want to bring clarity and awareness to your soul set and to your strategy, because once you have brought awareness to your vision, it's much easier to define the strategy, even in this VUCA time. And when you have a clear strategy, it's much easier to engage people. What happens in time of survival is that we focus directly on execution. So we are pushed into doing, losing connection with the basic values and with the basic purpose that we have. Coming back with the purpose is something that we can do if we have enough energy in our soul set. We'll reorganize all the things that are above. So from the vision, we define a clear strategy. When there's a clear strategy, it's much easier to engage people, because when the strategy is not clear, just people, they don't know what to do, and you can have like you can have people doing things in one direction, people doing things in another direction. This will create emotional turbulence into the organization. So clear vision brings clear strategy have a much easier engagement on your people, and then you can go to massive execution. So the doing is the result of a process that you do on the above levels. But in order to work on vision, strategy, engagement, you need to ask yourself as a leader, as a person, as a human being, how your soul set, your mindset, and your heart set are supporting. Because if you lose connection with your internal resources, then you lose your ability to lead others. So the first step for evolutionary leadership is really be connected with your internal resource. So I'm going to close this brief intervention, just reminding how much important it is for all of us to really nurture our body in order to have a body set that can lead us to very clear and strong execution. How much important is to let our heart to be open, but to be really open. So let our emotional intelligence to support us and to support others. The importance of clearing our mind from the overload of information that in this time is probably getting into our system, and basically it's information that we don't need. It is just confusing us, and to find a way to reconnect with our spirit that will give us a clear vision. And in order to do that, we need to find time and energy to invest on this. So leading means also finding the time, working on your personal time management, personal your schedule, and ensuring that you have time to feed all your different intelligence, that you have time to feed all your different system. Because you may find yourself that in time of complexity, in time of pressure, you just shifted to a very operational schedule that is the last thing that people want from their leaders. People, they really don't need to be managed. They don't need to be controlled. They want to be led. And in order to lead, you have to you just have to maintain the focus on this 4 dimension: vision, strategy, engagement, and then execution. But not only your execution, but execution of the others. Thank you very much. I'm done with it and very open to answer all your questions.
Thank you, Danilo Simoni. If you turn off your sharing.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. And so some questions I read in our chat, and so please, I can say that there is Anna Maria Bordin, and also there is Simona Lecce, Maria Pskova, Paolo. You know, they are just saying, you know, their congratulations, and so we can listen to Sarah Metzer, and Anna Maria Bordin. Who would like to take the floor? Anna Maria.
Carla, maybe Anna Maria Bordin asked to me on the sense of belonging and identity, but I don't know if Anna Maria is with us. I don't.
Or because Simona Lecce, she wrote maybe her answer to Danilo Simoni. If she would like to take.
Sì, la mia domanda era principalmente per Danilo Simoni, perché la pubblica amministrazione comunque credo che abbia delle peculiarità. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm speaking in Italian. Sorry, I forgot. Okay. No, my question is for Danilo Simoni, because I think the public administration are a different word. I think every sector is different, but private and public, there are some peculiarities that make them different. So if you have experienced any example, maybe because you train them, or if you don't want to make any name, it's not a problem, but just if you have examples of these evolutionary leaders, because it's very difficult to picture them in a public administration. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the basic principles are the same in the public and private sector. And of course, in the public sector, there are much more constraints. There are much more, I wouldn't say there is more complexity, but there are like more limitation due to all things that we know very well, bureaucracy and many other things. But I think the key is to really maintain a very strong focus on what is your vision, because your personal vision as a leader should be integrated and find its way, find its room into the perimeter of the institutional vision. So what I have experienced, the main difficulties for leaders in the public administration is to really understand the vision of the institution they were working for. And therefore, there is this complexity and this it's really hard to define your own vision as a leader if you don't have clear what's the true goal of what you're doing. And in a way, the private sector that can be easier, but my suggestion for people living in the public sector to really spend a lot of time defining and clearing the vision, because otherwise all their work would be just trying to manage the complexity of the different bureaucracy. In order to really have a breakthrough, you have to go beyond. Because if you accept the game of the bureaucracy, that's gonna be very hard. In my experience, no one won against the bureaucracy. In some way, you have to just shift the game to an higher ground, to a higher level. So it's to challenge the institution, really defining a clear vision. Because once you have the vision, then some rules can be changed, some rules can be broken in order to fulfill the vision. But if the vision is not clear, then you stay at the level of the games of rules, and you just get lost in that. I don't know if that's an answer, but successful leaders in the public sectors, to me, for what I have seen, were the one that really changed the purpose of what we're doing. Because sometimes what happens in the public is that you really lose the focus of the purpose in order to be compliant with the rules. So you are compliant with the rules, but you are not making any progress because you are lost the rules. So this friction between compliancy and fulfilling the vision is where the game of leadership is. I don't know if that's of any help for you.
Yes, Danilo, you are just right, because in the public, you know, if you just complain, you cannot do any changement. You cannot improve. You cannot be your institution evolve, you know. And that's why it's very difficult. It's much more easier in the private, you know, sector. In Italy, we can say, of course, all over Europe is different the situation. And what do you think, Roberto? Do you want to answer? I wrote in chat.
Yeah, but I will say something on Danilo communication, because will be interesting in the future. Check each point of his speech and comprehend which is possible to do in the private and in the public. The question of Simona is very interesting for us that works in a public structure, because a great part of the possibility in the private is not possible in the public. For example, one of the problems that I have cannot speaking this morning is the problem that the professor and the administrative are fixed. I cannot call professor external professor only in if you part with a particular contract, with a particular responsibility, with the series of problem by the administration, by the ministry. So the structure is very heavy, and the possibilities to upgrade the teaching part, but in particular the administrative office is a terrible problem. I have now a great structure with, for example, works with a lot of European projects, but no one of my personnel in administrative office speak English, for example. The major part of the work, also the administrative part of the European project, are held by professors that speak English, but the office don't speak English. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult for the basis question, not only for the project. But I know must answer to the two questions that I read on the list. So Anna Maria Bordin on the question of belonging. See, yes, yes. I think that every professor must feel proud to be part of our musical community. But this is not enough. It's not enough the sense of belonging and identity that in a Greek conservatory as Santa Cecilia is normal. Each professor is in a good situation from this point of view of the appartenance of belonging at the institution, but it's not enough. It is important that the professor is called upon to participate in the construction of each new part of the project, of the Renewable Continuous project. Thus, you will get a commitment from him that goes far beyond his employment contracts and his hours of service. All the person that collaborates with the direction to the new project don't see the clock, don't count the hour of work in the day, in the night, in the weekend, in the summer, so on. Not just teaching, so not just the training of our students, but the construction of a reality that is willing to welcome our best musician, to feel them as part of the cultural heritage. This is for me in Italy the bigger problem, the position of the music in the society. And for the questions Oh, Carla, sorry, I think.
No, please, Roberto, you can answer before to Yannis, but in a certain way, I think that you already answered because he's asking, what we can consider, the biggest issues for a leader of such an institution like a Conservatorio of the Capital in Rome, so that you faced the biggest issues. Yeah. Of course, in a certain way, it's also connected to my question, because I know that it's difficult to be ready to have all the competencies before becoming a leader of such an institution, And,
but related to the question of the pandemic is the questions.
Not only the pandemic, in general. And I was asking, about if in Italy would be such a courses to prepare a leader. If you would like to attend it.
I understand. So, okay.
Is that in any case a leader should be obliged in the first part of the mandate to follow some courses like this.
Yes, you know by my paper that the function, the skills of the director is a question of experience that the director bring in his new work. The question that is necessary a suitable course, I think yes, this question should be asked by all aspiring directors. I think that in Italy a high education course will be needed to prepare future leaders of institutions such as conservatory, academy, and so. Sometimes like a master. But the mechanism of the election is very strange in Italy. So I don't know how many people can follow a master for an hypothesis of function as director. But in any case, it must be mandatory for the leader to take a refresher course in the first 6 months of the mandates. Otherwise, one fails to meet the needs and fail to grasp the potential of the institution, I think.
Thank you so much, Roberto. And now we have still 5 minutes for some other questions. And Anna Maria Bordin, please, because I can read in our chat to Danilo Simoni. If I have understood correctly, evolutionary leadership is based on a new worldview. How can we start to propose a new vision in our institution? So it's also in a certain way how we can plan this kind of purpose in our institution, like courses or master or seminars, workshop, something like this that we in a European project, but can be also led by a single institution. Please, Anna Maria.
Yes, there is one aspect that is very important in our institution. Our institutions are tradition-based. That is, are historically and socially and territorial tradition-based. Evolutionary leadership and new world view and a new vision is extremely delicate issues because we have to face a very important tradition aspects. So how could you suggest for us some ideas, some points to start in new visions? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think in my understanding of your reality, and I'll be very frank and transparent in this, but there could be some confusion between the core business and all the part of the institution, the organization that are there to run the core business. So I would divide in very clear way what's the core business of maintaining the tradition that really understand that's what's the conservatories they have to do. It's even in the name, and that's totally clear, and that's your core business. And then there is the management. So you can be very evolutionary in the management in order to have very, very good management that will help you support your purpose, that is to maintain the tradition. But you don't have to be stuck in the past and the way you manage. Otherwise, you won't fulfill the purpose. So sometimes what happens in public administration that are very strongly rooted in tradition, or where compliancy is the main value, that you just enlarge the scope of your core business, even in sectors of the organization that won't need that. They will not support you for that. So what I would do, I would start from myself, trying really to understand what are the different specific purpose of the different functions and offices within the organization, and where it's really important to maintain the focus on the tradition, and where you can really go just breaking things and creating something new. I'm not a fan of disruption. I'm a fan of evolution, and evolution, it's always sustainable within the system. And every ecosystem has different level of sustainability and even different paces, different rhythms of growth and evolution. But we have to be really careful about the real purpose of the function, because my experience on administrative function or management function, sometimes they just tend to sit down because, okay, we have to maintain the tradition, but we don't have to work like it was three centuries ago, just because we have to maintain the tradition of the music of 3 centuries ago. That's my feeling and my limited experience with institutions.
Yeah.
I don't know if that make any sense for you.
Yes, of course. And I hope maybe this is the last question, and I can read that Raffaele Longo has a question, and for both. Maybe it's the same question for both our speakers. Raffaele, please take the floor.
Yes, very quick. Thanks for your inspiring presentation, both Roberto and Danilo. My question is, maybe the topic is quite complex, but I'd like to have your feedback about the topic is the error. Which is your relation with the error? In particular, Roberto, as a director, making so many decisions every day, I can understand, and it's physiological that the error is beyond the corner. Which is your relation with the error in building your self-leadership? And Danilo, which is the role in your strategy of the error to build, to configure, and to structure a possible, potential future young leader? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if Roberto wants to go first, or I can go first. It's just the same.
It's the same, Danilo. Please.
Okay. So I'll go, and then I'll leave it to you for the conclusions. The culture of the mistake. So the way we deal with mistakes and errors, with fails, really define the culture of the company. Because if you can consider mistakes as a way of learning new things, then we will enhance the explorative behaviors within the organization. If mistakes and error is used to blame and to find the responsible, then of course the message that we are conveying is much better to be flat and not to take any responsibility and not to take any initiative. I think that what you're mentioning is really a key issue, is one of the biggest problem of all kind of organization, public and private, and the way the organization is able, and the way the leader is able to define the culture, the policy on how to deal with mistakes will make a huge difference. Because even our neurophysiology, the way our brain works, anytime our internal judge is just too much activated, our brain areas in charge for creativity, they stop working. So blaming, judging, criticizing kills creativity and kills innovation within the organization. At the same time, of course, I just came out of the meeting with the legal office of very important multinational. They had the same issues, because in legal, compliance is just the key value. So how can be innovating when we are asked to be always very precise and perfect? So of course you want to aim to perfection, but the difference is what you do and the way you react when a mistake and error is made, and the way leader deals with the mistake. We really send a powerful message, positive or negative, toward the use of creativity and innovation within the organization.
Oh, a few more words for Yanis. I forgotten some questions. I would like to mention two problems, one general and one particular. One is the lack of autonomy of the Conservatoire in Italy. It is foreseen by law, but in reality is not fully granted. The other problem was convincing the administration to work for the new project, but also to work in general, abandoning the previous laziness, which did not allow to bring out the potential of teacher, the potential of professor, and the Santa Cecilia brand that is now in the world. For the errors, the errors are statistically numerous, too much. Also because the situation at the beginning of my period of director is very terrible by the point of view of the organization and also the artistic production. So it was necessary to make a complete checking of the structure, to have a new situation of production and of concert. And so, as I said, there are very a large number, as you can imagine, in such a large business. But the repeated errors show us which topics we still need to work on. So the problem in serious, and also this. To are addressed through teamwork. For example, I have a series of professors that work on the section of the law of the conservatory, and another for the organization of the orchestra. So all the problems that are there are always new in a structure that project a large number of activity are sort of posed to a discussion, and not always we have the solution for the moment. And we are in the future, I hope to make less error in these years, but I am in a good company.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
The very sincere answers that, of course, mistakes and errors are, under the corner, but we have to learn from them and to be able to manage with a very, very aimed teacher, very aimed person in our institution. I'm sorry if we have 10 minutes late on our schedule, and so we see after this break at 3 o'clock Rome and Brussels time, and have a nice breakfast and see you later. Thank you so much for your attention. Bye. Bye.